Hello, I'm Rob Rebein, Interim Dean of the IU School of Liberal Arts, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this morning's presentation of the IU Bicentennial Medal to Dr. Marianne Wokeck, Chancellor's Professor Emerita of History, past Director of the Institute for American Thought, and President of the Senior Academy. I'll be serving as the MC of today's event, and I'm honored that we could join together to celebrate Marianne and her career in this special way. Dr. Marianne Wokeck is Chancellor's Professor Emerita of History at IUPUI, where during her distinguished career, she taught early American history, directed the Institute for American Thought, and served as the president of the IUPUI Faculty. Dr. Wokeck's deep commitment to liberal arts education has been expressed in her academic work, her personal life, and through her philanthropy. She has given Indiana University, the IUPUI Campus, the IU School of Liberal Arts many years of pioneering leadership and visionary support. Marianne, who was educated in both Germany and the United States, had life-changing international experiences as a young person. Because she believes all students should have the opportunity to immerse themselves in other cultures and to find their place in the global society, she and her husband, the late Mike Harris, created the PMG and MSW Harris Study Abroad Scholarship. The scholarship's impact is extended through the IU International Study Abroad Scholarship Matching Program. Dr. Wokeck is and has long been active in faculty governance, serving on numerous committees and task forces at the departmental, school, campus, and university levels. This includes serving as president of the IUPUI Faculty Council and co-chair of the Faculty Council of Indiana University. And even in retirement, Marianne continues to lead and contribute, serving on the board of the IUPUI Senior Academy and the University Club. Dr. Wokeck is an exceedingly generous and thoughtful friend, colleague, teacher, scholar, academic citizen, mentor, and donor, whose service to the School of Liberal Arts, IUPUI, and Indiana University is extraordinary. Now, let me introduce you to Bill Blomquist. Bill is a professor of political science, an adjunct professor of public and environmental affairs, and a former dean of the School of Liberal Arts. Bill, would you please share a few words with us about our honored guest?
Happy to. Thanks, Rob. As you've indicated, Marianne has worked really across all fronts to advance IUPUI, and she's been a consistent and energetic and effective advocate for the recognition and the reward of our faculty and staff for their achievements and their professionalism, and she has particularly championed the advancement and success of women within the university. When you look around IUPUI, you can see lasting marks of her contributions. The IUPUI Honors College, which she helped design and then led the search for the founding dean. Our general education curriculum, course transferability within the state of Indiana, student learning outcomes, degree qualification profiles, things for which IUPUI gets pats on the back from national organizations and publications are things that Marianne helped create. Within the School of Liberal Arts, many of our academic programs and degrees, our faculty advancement procedures, I'll say this is a little bit of inside shop, but our report for the 2012 reaccreditation, anybody who's ever been part of an accreditation process in higher ed knows what a heavy lift that is. That was entirely her handiwork. And as Rob said, she's been one of our school's most generous financial supporters. She is a superb networker and listener. In our time working together in the dean's office, she seemed to me to always know the latest trends and options and opportunities for the sake of helping somebody else. I just want to share two things that I have written previously about Marianne around the time that she was leaving our associate dean position to become president of the faculty and director of the institute. But I thought of these as this morning was scheduled. Consider almost any major initiative that has moved IUPUI forward in the last 25 years, and you will find that Marianne Wokeck either led it or contributed significantly to it. She is outstanding at what she does, and she makes everyone around her better at what they do and makes the institution better. And I just want to share two quick memories. You know, things can get pretty busy for all of us, and I had a habit during my time as dean of concluding meetings at times by saying, okay, does everybody have enough to do? Which was just sort of a sarcastic thing to kind of acknowledge the fact that everybody's plates were full and overflowing. Marianne had the best answer anybody has ever given. One time I said that at the end of a meeting, and she looked up, and with just a slight smile, she said, barely, which was perfect. But the other thing I want to share is that it took two people to replace her, literally. When she stepped down as associate dean to take on other responsibilities, I knew that I could not, in good conscience, and perhaps even legally, ask any one person to take on the portfolio that she had accumulated. And so we did a little bit of reorganizing of responsibilities and replaced one associate dean with two associate deans. And I will tell you, as a tribute to her prodigious capacity for work, neither of those two associate deans ever complained that they were underutilized. She was doing the work of two talented full-time people. Can't say enough for my respect and admiration and appreciation of you as a colleague and as a friend, and very well-deserved recognition today. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Bill. Now allow me to introduce Kristi Palmer, Simon Family Dean of University Library. Kristi, please share a few words about how Marianne's work connected with your own and your relationship with her.
Absolutely. I began my professional career at IUPUI as a metadata librarian, but also the subject librarian connected to history, women's studies, and American studies, which provided ample opportunity to work with Marianne. New to both librarianship and interacting with faculty as a colleague rather than as a student, I'm grateful to have met Marianne early on. She welcomed me as a liberal arts librarian and new instructor into her classroom. She invited me to departmental meetings to meet other liberal arts faculty and to develop a rapport there. Later, she encouraged and supported my participation in faculty governance and offered to meet for coffee just to chat. Her kindness and what I now recognize as a concerted effort to provide mentorship made all the difference to both my career path, but also to seeing this campus as a place of belonging and a home. And I'm not alone. I've witnessed Marianne reach out to other junior female faculty in particular on numerous occasions, and I appreciate that she includes librarian faculty in this mentorship role. Marianne's kind, but also deliberate support of women in the academy is inspiring and begets other female faculty to support, encourage, and provide opportunities to other women at IUPUI. Marianne helped me find a path as a new faculty member. She showed me how to envision myself as a leader, and she taught me what it means to provide that kinship and support to the next generation of women at IUPUI. On behalf of the scores of women you've nurtured at IUPUI, Marianne, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Kristi. Now allow me to introduce Josette Jones, Associate Professor of Health Informatics and Nursing and Director of Health Informatics in the School of Informatics. Josette, would you please share a few words about Marianne's role as a mentor and her engagement in faculty governance?
Absolutely. So I can say the first time I met Marianne coming from Europe, from Belgium, I did not know the history or the culture of American university. And the first time I met her, she was far away from me as a marshal of the commencements. That is the first time that I really have met Marianne, see Marianne. And I was curious about this person, but I never thought about approaching her. When she approached me, when I was completely done as a junior faculty and could not see how I could ever get tenure. That was insurmountable. I was a null. I couldn't move on. And Marianne came very kindly and gently to me and started talking over coffee. So what's going on? And I said, I don't have publications. I have to teach, to start a new program. I cannot do it all. And she said, you have no publications, but you have a new discipline. There are no people who can read your publications. You first have to educate, put the people in the field, and then they can read what you publish. And I said, oh yeah. And she said, and that is what you have to tell in your dossier. That is your story. And lo and behold, I've been thinking about that, and it has helped me to become a faculty, to become a tenure faculty. I still think about it. And I'm so grateful for her mentoring at that time, because I would have given up. I didn't feel that I could do it. And thanks to her, I feel now I can do it. And I can even tell other people a similar story. Don't give up. You will be able to do it. Look at what you did as a woman, as a junior faculty in the field. And at this time, I can say I miss her. I miss our coffee to chat, like Kristi was saying, and also our annual dinner, because we find out that our birthdays are about 10 days apart. So we have to celebrate that annually. Except this year, we couldn't celebrate it. Thank you, Marianne. You make my career possible.
Thank you so much, Josette. Next, we have Meg Brown Loyd, Archive Specialist at University Library, to talk about her time as Marianne's student. Meg.
Thanks. I first met Marianne in her documentary editing class when I was in the middle of my master's in history and something of a crisis mode. I had figured out I didn't want to do what I originally thought I wanted to do, and I didn't know whether to complete my program, if I wanted to switch entirely. So I took kind of a semester off and took documentary editing. And it not only convinced me to finish my program, I added the documentary editing certificate as well. I was so impressed with Marianne, her ability to make it fascinating, to show how necessary the field was when I wasn't super familiar with it beforehand, and still be very practical about it. So I fell in love. When it came time to refocus on my thesis, I had initially started working on a topic that was related to the Indianapolis car industry, and that kind of stalled out. So I turned to Marianne, and through several conversations, she helped me find my way to a new topic and agreed to be my chair. I always tell people who ask about my thesis experience that I wouldn't have finished if it wasn't for her. She was great about helping me find the right questions to ask. I think the way to put it would be guiding me without directing me, if that makes sense. Once things got going, though, I didn't progress through the process very fast. There was a lot going on in my personal life at the time. I was acting as a caretaker for my grandfather. So after I finished writing what became my first chapter in H750, it took me longer than average to really get through the rest of the process. And I'd often get anxious about making everything work. Every time I went down to her office at the Institute, we'd start off just with a wandering conversation about what was going on in our lives and just chatting. And I always really enjoyed that because it was fun and chatty, but also because I'm sure they were part of her way to put me at ease after I'd worked myself up. So once we got down to business, she was great at talking me off the ledge, helping me see how to untwist things when I'd work my thesis into knots, and always had helpful advice for my research, my writing, and I always left my meetings feeling so much more confident about my project, that I was going to get done, and that this was good. She was practical about my goals. She always seemed to know when I needed a kick in the pants and when I needed a little time to deal with what was going on in my life. And I really appreciated that balance. I think without her mentorship, my private life would have actually just taken over and I never would have finished. So let me finish by saying thank you, Marianne. Your guidance and support in class and during my thesis meant the world to me, as I know they did for countless of my fellow students. I am so thrilled for you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Meg. Now allow me to introduce Jon Eller, Chancellor's Professor of English and founding director of the Center for Ray Bradbury Studies. Jon, please share a few words on Marianne's work and friendship. I know you've got a lot of stories to tell.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, Marianne Wokeck and I both came to IUPUI in mid-career. I arrived 2 years after she did and found her already on her way to becoming the effective leader and wise counselor who contributed so much to Indiana University, as we've already heard today. She accomplished much as president of Faculty Council and as associate dean in the School of Liberal Arts. But I want to focus on her contributions to the field that underlies all that we do in the disciplines of history and literary study. It's that mysterious world of discovery and detective work that we call textual scholarship. Now that goes back to before she even arrived here. After her graduate work in Germany, she came to Temple University, where she completed her PhD. And then immediately got a position as associate editor in the papers of William Penn from 1982 to 1986. That brought her fully into the interactive and experiential learning world of documentary editing. And then she continued on from 1986 to 1991 as director and editor of the early Pennsylvania Legislature's Support Project. Well, this experience meant that she came here in 1991 with a tremendous background in the kind of detective work we have had to do since the 1960s in this country to bring literary works and documentary works of our nation's founding, of our nation's cultural leaders, all across the spectrum, bringing these texts into reliable editions. And it takes a lot of Sherlock Holmes kind of detective work to get back to the original documents, to see what revisions were made, to see what kind of papers and writing went into the actual creation of, say, the Federalist Papers, or the papers of Woodrow Wilson, or the papers of any other activists and literary figures, male and female, in this country. And this is something that we had in latent form at Indiana University at IUPUI through the Center for American Studies, loosely affiliated with the Purse Edition Project at that time. Marianne came in at a time when we could grow everything into a more effective nucleus. Pretty soon, the Santayana edition came. The works of George Santayana was brought here by way of Texas A&M, originating at the University of Tampa, Texas A&M, and then here with previous dean Herman Sackkamp and Chris Frost. And then about the same time, maybe a little earlier, Jack McKivigan came from Yale by way of the University of West Virginia to bring in the Frederick Douglass project, the editing of the Frederick Douglass's works. So we had all of these little subatomic particles, from quarks to electrons to protons, wandering around IUPUI and within the School of Liberal Arts in all these little different parts of the building. And Marianne, there were 3 or 4 of us that worked with various teams right down through, and including Bill Blomquist, to bring all this together. But she was the real leader. She was the one who had the vision as we transformed the Center for American Studies into the Institute for American Thought, brought all these pieces together, and eventually, for a time now, have had all of these projects co-located. Some, like the Ray Bradbury Center where I work, has spun back into Kavanaugh Hall, and the others will too. I think Frederick Douglass has already. But the point is, she brought us together at a time, a very important time, where we learned to use our additions and the laboratories, because it's a humanities kind of laboratory environment, to work with students, to bring students in to contribute to this process, to bring students in to get credit in the volumes of editing these documentary works or these works of literature into editions that are reliable today. She was the one that nurtured it. She was the one that dragged me along by the collar to found the graduate program in textual studies that we have today, interdisciplinary program that works with English, philosophy, and history in the School of Liberal Arts. And she counseled and brought through so many students in that program, off and on as director of it, as instructor of it, as Meg Brown testified just now, as one of the students in one of her classes. And we have had many of these students go on in their legacy to work in editing, both professionally and academically, and even in scholarly work after that. She was the one that built the fire under these people. She was the one who built the fire under me. And it's just been a privilege to know her and have the honor of knowing her husband, Mike Harris, a great guy and an emeritus professor himself from Temple University, who became great friends with many of us here at IUPUI in the years both before and after his retirement. Just in the quick words of Richard Altick, who was a textual scholar, probably one of the grand scholars of textual studies, he said that literary and documentary history constitutes one of the strands of which the history of civilization itself is woven. It finds its material in the vast array of records we have inherited from the imaginative and historical side of human experience, the representation in language of that experience. We have the record of our journey, the autobiography of the race's soul. And those documents are preserved for leaders, they're preserved for scholars, they're preserved for readers, they're preserved for interpreters today through this kind of work. And Marianne helped us establish here. She was a guiding force and director as we set up one of only, I think, 2 such graduate programs in the U.S. And I'm so glad to have been able to work with her. It shaped the rest of my career. Absolutely, it shaped the rest of my career. You know, in the military, which was the first half of my life, people move on. You work with them sometimes in very critical situations around the world, and you know them very well. But then they move on, and you never see them again, and they never see you again. But what I found was one of the great enlightenments at Marianne's retirement ceremony was that we know for a fact that she will stay here. And she will come back here from all her many travels, and she's quite a traveler. And she will always be here for us, working with Senior Academy, working with those of us as we go into retirement, as we continue to work here in our scholarly and archival work at this university. I'm proud to know her, and I really celebrate with her this honor she's receiving today.
Jon, thank you so much. Now let me introduce Kevin Cramer, Associate Professor of History and current Chair of the History Department in the School of Liberal Arts. Kevin, would you please share a little bit about your work with Marianne and her impact on the Department of History?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Marianne. It's good to see you. It's good to see all of you, even remotely. And I couldn't be more pleased to be asked on this day to honor Marianne with some of my recollections of her support for the History Department, her support for me personally and professionally. Much has already been said, and rightfully so, about Marianne's reputation as a scholar, as an editor, and as a historian, and the impact she has made on her field and on the as Jon pointed out on the field of textual editing is enormous, and her wide travels have allowed her to cross paths with so many people and bring people into a network of collaboration and cooperation. I would like to say, in terms of her other major area of contribution to how we work as historians and how we work as teachers, has been her work on the reform of education and pedagogy in higher education. If you look at her professional service in the various historical associations that she has worked with and been a leader in, like the IAH and the AHA and the Indiana Women's History Association, her leadership in faculty development, her ability to and generosity to be a mentor to so many people in so many different fields, I think is mirrored in her dedication to improving how we teach and working with for example, the Indiana Commission of Higher Education and working through the American Historical Association and the Lumina Foundation in the Tuning Project Education Reform Program, made quite an impression on me as our department rethought the ways that we worked in the classroom and how we engaged students with our work and encouraged their own research. So I really want to highlight that aspect of Marianne's incredibly varied and significant career in so many different areas of what we do as scholars and professors. On a personal note, I have to express my gratitude for her welcoming me and my wife Linda to Indianapolis 20 years ago now, in 2000. And the invitations started to come very quickly after I arrived here. And one of the traditions that she established were the groom call dinners at her apartment with Mike and my wife and other members of the community of IUPUI, both past and present. And I really cherished those evenings, Marianne. But overall, I have to say her impact on me is her stress on the importance of vocation and professionalism. And I can give you an example of how she made that very forceful impression on me. I remember my first year here, at the end of my first year, and I was asked to prepare my first FAR, my first annual report. And I looked at all the boxes I had to check and all the information I had to fill out. And I'd never encountered that sort of thing before. And I kind of pushed back against, I said, I don't want to do this. Why do I have to do this? And Marianne just very gently but firmly took me by the hand and said, this is something you have to do if you want to move forward, if you want to document what you're doing as a scholar and as a teacher, and if you want to be promoted and to get tenure, this is part of your obligation as a professional. And that moment I took very, very seriously. I would also like to thank Marianne for her friendship and her willingness to talk to me at all times about our shared interest, both in history and in intellectual history. But Marianne also gives me, and has always given me, a very strong connection every day of my life at work to Germany and to the Germans, a country I love, a people I love, who have been very generous to me over the years. And to see Marianne and to talk to her is to always rekindle that affection and that gratitude. Finally, I would like to thank her for all the birthday cards over the years and reminded me that dates and acknowledgments and commemoration of important things in our life are very, very vital to our mental health and to the collegiality that we should enjoy and foster as historians and as colleagues. Thank you very much, Marianne, and congratulations. I can think of nobody who deserves this award.
Thank you, Kevin. And now, in honor of all that Marianne Wokeck has done for the Department of History, the Institute for American Thought, the School of Liberal Arts, IUPUI, and Indiana University, and the state of Indiana, I am honored to present the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal. The Bicentennial Medal, a special initiative of Indiana University's 200th anniversary, is awarded to organizations and individuals who, through their personal, professional, artistic, or philanthropic efforts, have broadened the reach of Indiana University around the state, the nation, and the world. Made of materials salvaged from bells that once rang out from the tower of the Francis Morgan Swain Student Building on the IU Bloomington campus, each Bicentennial Medal is a lasting piece of Indiana University history. Marianne, I believe you should have the medal there with you. Typically, I would have presented this medal to you as I utter the following words. Since I'm not there with you, will you please hold the medal up for us to see? Thank you.
Thank you.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the trustees of Indiana University, I am pleased and privileged to present this Bicentennial Medal on behalf of IU President Michael McRobbie and IUPUI Chancellor Nassar Paydar to Dr. Marianne Wokeck. Congratulations, Marianne. Would you please honor us with a few words?
Yes, I would love to. I prepared remarks and I am overwhelmed. So I will read my remarks in the full knowledge that it has been wonderful to see many of you. And I'm not quite sure that the person you described is me, but we also learned that how we see ourselves is not necessarily how others see us. So I just take it as at face value. Colleagues and friends, my thanks to you for your kind words and recognition of an honor that came as a surprise. As you know, my connection to Indiana University is foremost to IUPUI. Although serving as University Faculty Council co-president brought me to Bloomington, other than using the library and enjoying music performances. What you may not know is the significance of bicentennial as somewhat of a theme in my life. As a kid, I enjoyed the parade that my hometown, Göttingen, put on in celebration of its founding a millennium ago, much more than 200 years. While growing up, however, I enjoyed the special programming and performances that came with the bicentennial years of birth and death dates of composers of the Baroque and classical music I love. When I came to this country as an exchange student of early American history at Temple University in Philadelphia, I was introduced to and became included in projects and preparations for the bicentennial of the American Revolution, an exciting time for colonial historians, of whom there was a large and diverse community drawn from the faculty and grad students at the many colleges and universities in the city of brotherly love and its environs. The Philadelphia Center for Early American Study attracted scholars and projects and funded dissertation research, reason to postpone my return to Germany. The more so because I had married PMG Harris, Mike to his friends, in 1976, two American historians with a wedding date in the bicentennial year of the Revolution. After the bicentennial of the United States Constitution, funding for historians and history projects became much more challenging, and history departments contracted as first business and then STEM edged out liberal arts as degree choices of students and their parents. Finding two tenure-line positions in the same specialty was impossible. And had it not been for the papers of William Penn and the biographical dictionary of early Pennsylvania legislators, I would have given up my goal of teaching history. The search for a historian after the retirement of Bernie Friedman brought me to IUPUI in 1991. Like many of my colleagues, I was excited by and committed to the vision and mission of this campus, namely extending education to students typically excluded from college. Fortunately, I had a spouse who not only shared those values and was willing to relocate to the Midwest in his retirement, but who also translated his experience and conviction, and mine, about the transformative value of international study into the PMG and MSW Harris Study Abroad Scholarship, and who would understand the special symbolism of bicentennial to me. For almost 30 years, helping students to realize their potential through education was a prime motivator for my teaching. The other responsibilities of faculty work engaged me fully, too, especially participation in shared governance. At IUPUI, the faculty and professional staff across units and projects on campus have enriched my knowledge and understanding well beyond the tedium connected to meetings, policies and procedures, and reports. I am very grateful for that experience with the wonderful repercussion that some of those colleagues have also become friends, a special gift under current COVID-19 pandemic circumstances. My thanks to you who have joined this presentation and my appreciation to those who made the event happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne, and congratulations. When COVID is over, you and I can have the first appointment at the University Club, where I've enjoyed so many lunches with you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, congratulations on receiving the Indiana University Bicentennial Medal, Marianne. Thank you, guest presenters, for helping us to honor Marianne today. And thanks to all of you for attending today's ceremony. On behalf of the faculty, staff, and students of the IU School of Liberal Arts and University Library, best wishes, be well, and goodbye for now.
Congratulations, Marianne. I hope to see